Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be hooking up the Duramax project with a brand new fuel system. Let's get started. Alright, so let's go over what we got. So we have the front and rear tank mounts. We have the sending unit, all the required hardware, dash 6 and dash 8 AN hose, that's nylon braided. Obviously we have the fuel tank, we have the gasket and ring for the fuel sender. We have the anti-rattling mat that wraps around the tank where it connects to the hangers. And we have all the required hardware to adapt from the GM Quick Connect to AN style. And we also have the these fancy little AN style looking clamps, but all it is a churched up hose clamp. So this is what's going to go on the fuel sender end. So, I mean, that's really all there is to it. This one's going to be a quick one. So let's jump in. All right, so there's like a bajillion holes on the side of this frame rail. So we need to figure out exactly where these hangers are going to mount. Luckily, they are labeled front and rear because the bolt pattern is slightly different on each one of these. So the front one goes somewhere in this area, so I'm just looking for a combination of holes that make sense. There we go. So that should be it right there. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 available spots, but I have a zip tie holding up the transmission cooler line through one of those holes, so I'm going to get that snipped and then we can throw that on. What you want to do is go this way with the hardware so it doesn't interfere with the tank. There's plenty of space on the inside of the frame. So where was that? It was just like that. So I just realized that these are prevailing torque style nuts. So they are slightly deformed, so whenever you're screwing them down, they kind of clamp onto the fastener, which I'm sure they're great, but I sure do hate them. So I'd like to be able to get this hardware, started most of the way without having to use tools, but doesn't look like that's going to be the case. All right, one down, one to go. All right, so the rear hanger is going to use these 4 holes here, but you can see one of them is already occupied by one of the fasteners that I'm using to mount the transmission cooler. And that stud is actually welded to the plate for this transmission cooler. So I'm just going to reuse that, and it's just going to be a dual purpose stud. Yeah. All right, and it should have plenty of meat on it there, which it does. Oh, nope. Got my wrench stuck. Come on. Give it back. There we go. Hopefully I can get to this one. Yeah, I can. Just barely, though. I didn't really think about this at all whenever I was mounting up this transmission cooler, so I got lucky. Which, I'll take it. All right, both hangers are on. All right, next up, we're gonna put this anti-rattling mat on. I'm actually a little bit disappointed. To me, I thought this was going to be foam or like some sort of a squishy substance, but it's really just like dense cardboard, tar paper stuff. But I'm sure it's not LMC's fault. This is probably what came stock on this truck back in 1981. So whatever, that's what we're going to use. Flip the tank over. And right here and right here is where the tank is going to sit in those cradles. So I'm just going to take a piece like that and a piece like this, and just going to use some painter's tape to kind of make it stick while we set the tank down. All right, time to drop this thing into place. Okay. So far, so okay. Pull this tape off, you know. Not that it was doing anything anyway. So that seems to be lining up pretty good. All right. Nice. Basically just clips right into place. It's pretty cool. So next we'll be getting these straps fastened. Oh, actually, we have the anti-rattle strips that go up on top too. Feel like there's extra. What do you think? I'm just gonna cut these down to size. All right, that's better. All right. Not too bad. Sound like a horn. All right, next up, we're gonna get the fuel sender installed. I'm gonna pull out this tape. So throw down the O-ring. So this is actually keyed, so it can only go in one way. There we go. Definitely a snug fit. Alright, just like that. Locking ring. Alright, the fuel sender is in and the lock ring is tight. So now let's move on to making up the actual lines. So like I said before, these are the fittings that I'm going to be using. It's going to be -8 on the supply and -6 on the return. These fittings here adapt the GM style quick connect to AN, so these are actually pretty cool. So let's pop those on next. All right, so here we have the supply and the return lines. So for these fittings, they're actually really cool. This part comes apart right here, and you can see, I don't know, maybe you can see, there's like this little groove cut in there, and that's supposed to fit over this raised portion right here. So all you gotta do is snap that on, and it's a very tight fit. And then inside of here, I know you probably can't see that at all, but there is a double set of O-rings in here that I'm gonna seal to this surface here, just exactly like the normal quick connect fitting actually would. So once you get it started, you just thread it on, and that will seat both of those O-rings. Need to get a wrench and make sure that that's snugged up. But while I'm here, might as well do the return side. Same thing. Just snap that into that groove. This one you may actually be able to see the O-rings. They're green. You see those? Yeah. Oh, that's not seated in there all the way. There it goes. Make sure it snaps. I really need to get a set of AN wrenches, aluminum AN wrenches. All right, and those are locked down. All right, next up we're gonna start making up our hoses. So I have the -6 line here for the return. So I got my -6, oh, got tape. All right, got my -6 fitting here, so I'm gonna undo this part, and it's this part that fits on the end of the hose. Some AN fittings are better than others, and I really like this brand. This is Racetronics, I think, because they put a nice chamfer on the inside of this, so it's really easy to get these hoses in, especially when you're dealing with frayed edges. I'm gonna get that pushed in here. Just push it on and give it a twist while you're pushing it on. And you can look on the inside and see when the hose is bottomed out against the threads in there. All right, that's good. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but the hose is fully bottomed out against the threads on the inside of that. So I'll set that aside and we'll do the -8 the same way. All right, I'm grabbing my -6 hose here. I'm gonna get it in the vise, and what I'm using here is a set of aluminum soft jaw pliers, I guess. But these AN fittings are aluminum, so you don't want to mar them up. So I'm gonna get that in there and get that snugged up. Doesn't have to be super tight. I need to lubricate those threads. So let me grab, where's my WD? What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Be right back. All right, before you go to thread this in, you just throw a little bit of lube on there so it slides in there. That was way too much. Way too much. Okay. Go ahead and get this guy started. And, well, this part is an 11/16, but that looks like it's gonna be 3/4. Never have the right tool on the first try. All right, now we're just gonna tighten this guy down. And you wanna keep going until this piece is snugged up against this piece. All right, there it is. One down, one to go. So that is our return hose. Let's grab our supply hose. Bear with me for the next 7,900,000 minutes while I get this tightened up. All right. 2 down. Now let's go see how it looks installed on the engine. All right, supply line. Definitely want to make sure that these AN ends are clean. It's a machined surface There can be no dirt or anything on there. It won't seat properly. Yeah, that's gonna look real clean. Probably gonna have to take and wrap these in like some heat shielding all the way down here because we have this exhaust manifold and everything right here. So probably do that. Need to order that for sure. All right, got to figure out how we are going to route these guys. But the general idea is it's going to be on the inside of the driver's side frame rail. Make sure they're not all twisted. But like I said, got to leave. I want to leave some wiggle room in here because I know that with the cab back on, the brake booster master cylinder is right in here, so I want to make sure that I can move this out of the way. And I don't want it to be too tight where it's like pulling down on those fittings. So we'll leave some space for that. And since I always forget to order the AN hose clamps, I don't know. That's what I'm going to order for these guys and put them on the inside of the frame rail so that, you know, these stay in a nice even line along with the transmission cooler hoses as well. It would just look really clean to have those kind of all stacked up down the frame rail. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. But right now we're going to use zip ties. And one of my neighbors is having the best time on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler or something right now. I never had a four-wheeler or dirt bike or anything growing up, but my neighbor, my best friend Jake, had a three-wheeler at one point, and the two of us were bound and determined to kill ourselves on that thing. I don't know how many almost broken ankles we gave ourselves. Those things had zero suspension, so we would take them off sweet jumps, you know. I think we'll just go down there like this. And then, since these come out right here, maybe it would look good to pop out like this. Am I overthinking it? Yeah, I know, I'm overthinking it. That's just what I do. All right, I got the hoses marked where I need to cut there and there. So let me get these cut real quick and I'll show you what I decided to do. I think it looks good. I think you'll like it. I like it. All right, here we go. Definitely want to make sure that these hoses are clean after you cut them like that. So I'm going to hit them with the brake clean and then the air hose. All right, so what I decided to do was to use this hole down here for the supply, and then snag it underneath this cross member down here, kind of in between that, and there's another hole right here that we can use for the return. So that'll snake up here like this, and this will snake over like that. And that looks super clean right there. I'll put a zip tie right here to hold those together. Got enough bend radius. Of course, I still have to get those clamps to make everything down here look good, but I think that looks pretty clean right there. Last thing we're going to do today is get these hose ends on here. So let me pull my tape off. And these go in just like, or go on just like any of the other ones do. And tighten it down. Obviously this is purely cosmetic, but I think it looks good. And now that I'm looking at it, I wonder if there's going to be enough space between here and here to fit these guys. We shall see. I may not be able to use them, which would be a bummer. Oh man, maybe if I do like this. Oh, barely. Just barely. I guess it kind of like maybe defeats the purpose a little bit whenever you have to have the screw portion of this like on the top, but I don't know. And now since I'm a little bit OCD, I'm gonna have to swivel this one around to match. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. We were able to get the tank in, the sender installed, the hoses made up, and connected to the fuel rails on the engine. So, I mean, not a whole lot, to be honest. Pretty straightforward, but it's another thing that we can check off the list. If you like what I'm doing, please let me know by hitting that like button. And consider subscribing to the channel if you don't want to miss what's next on this awesome project. And as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.